Hello everyone and welcome to FU Friday. This video of course is going to be a little late. I seem to be really having a hard time catching up. I may have to cut the schedule down to just 2 a week. I do have a full-time job and there's a bit of effort in producing these videos, so we'll see how it goes. I know Fridays I don't get a lot of view on my videos, so I'm going to change the format a little as well. I'm not going to spend so much time on my fantasy football. I'm not really sure everybody's terribly interested in that. And we'll talk about my regular football though. How about we played the number 2 LSU Tigers in Tuscaloosa this last Saturday and took them to the woodshed pretty good. They've got a Heisman potential Fournette running back who came in averaging somewhere around 180 yards per game, and we held him to something like 31 yards on 19 carries or something. He was totally ineffective. The defense shut him down completely. It was pretty much a sight to see. Very exciting. And upcoming we've got Mississippi State, who's not doing terribly well, but they're an SEC team. You can never, they're never going to be a cakewalk. So I'm really hoping that Coach Saban's got the boys paying attention and focused. Hopefully this is not going to be a trap game. But the remainder of the season, we've got Mississippi State, we've got Auburn, we've got now, assuming we win out, Florida in the SEC championship, and we are now ranked number 2 as far as the playoff contention goes. So we're pretty happy about that, and think things are going exactly as they should be going. My Jaguars, on the other hand, are not doing so well as far as their record goes anyway, but they're playing extremely well. The offense is really doing some nice things. If they could just get the defense ramped up and can keep the opponent's score down just a little bit, they're going to be doing very well. They're playing the Ravens, Baltimore Ravens, this weekend here in Baltimore. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to get to go, but hoping Baltimore's having a kind of a down season, so maybe they can steal one up here and I can have a little bit of fun with my friends at work. Fantasy team, I won this past weekend. I lost the weekend before. My record's now 5-4, but this season in our league, 5-4, I'm ranked number 7th. We've got a lot of parity in the league right now. We've got a couple of really good teams, a couple of really bad teams, and then the rest just jumbled up, and now it's all about how many points you've scored, whether or not you're going to make the playoffs. So, and unfortunately, I started out really well this season and was beating some good teams, and then I lost to some really bad teams. And now I have the stretch, and I've got some really good teams left in the stretch, so I may be in trouble and may miss the playoffs for the first time ever. We'll see how that goes. We've got a few weeks left. All right, that's it for football. Not going to go into the details I did before, because I don't think you really care. If you do care, put some comments and let me know you care. Maybe I'll bring it back up and around. In the meantime, we're going to start our second segment, which is something I've run across and I think is pretty damn funny. And it's also a segment which can grow and I can use for quite. But I'm looking at odd laws in specific states. And I started with my own state here in Maryland. Filling in on some laws we have here that are just really, at what point do these things get tossed? Some of these things have had to have been around for 100 years and are just really not valid anymore. But let me read you a few of them and I'll let you decide. So, I find this to be fairly reasonable. A woman may not go through her husband's pockets while he is sleeping. That's a crime. Men may not buy drinks for female bartenders. I'm going to keep a tally. That's one I've broken. It is illegal to sell condoms from vending machines, with one exception. Prophylactics can be sold from vending machines in establishments that sell alcohol. Thistles may not grow in one's yard. Eating while swimming in the ocean is prohibited. In the entire state, it is illegal to give or receive oral sex. That's 2. It is a violation for a male to be in a public park wearing a shirt with no sleeves, and this includes joggers. It's a $10 fine. You cannot swear while inside the limits of Baltimore City. 3. Maryland requires that people who write critiques or news articles about alcoholic beverages must be certified experts and registered with an agency of the city. In addition, they can only receive 3 samples of any brand of alcohol from a company per writer. I'm sure there's some basis for that at some point. Once again in Baltimore, while you may spit in the roadway, you may not spit on city sidewalks. In Baltimore, it is illegal to take a lion to the movies. Sound common sense there to that, I believe. Also in Baltimore, it is a violation to sell chicks or baby ducklings to a minor within a week of Easter. In Columbia, Maryland, you cannot have an antenna exposed outside of your house, even though you can have a 25-foot satellite dish. And also in Columbia, clotheslines are banned, even though you can throw your clothes over the fence or whatever. Telling you 6 months in jail and a $100 fine. Again, in Baltimore, it's illegal to block the sidewalk with a box. That'll get you a $1 fine. And again in Baltimore, it's illegal to throw a bale of hay out of a second-story window, or anything else for that matter. That'll get you a $20 fine. This one, in Baltimore, it is illegal to play professional croquet before 2 p.m. on a Sunday. Baltimore, it is illegal to mistreat oysters. Although I'd be interested in actually seeing what the definition of oyster mistreatment entailed. Alright, now this one's just plain out weird. Not that some of the others haven't been. But also in Baltimore, it is illegal to scrub or clean a sink at any time. That's 5. I'm going to say 5.5 because I may have mistreated an oyster or 2. In Halethorpe, Maryland, kisses for longer than 1 second are illegal. That's 5, maybe 6. Is that 6 for me now? And finally, in Ocean City, a law from the early 1900s bans men on the boardwalk from walking around shirtless. There you go. There's some crazy laws in this world. You wonder why some of them are still on the books. Some of them make a little bit of sense, even to this day. Doing tours around the country here, looking at some of the crazy stuff that these lawmakers have come up with and seeing what kind of funny things we can find. And finally, in segment 3, we're going to talk about a cringeworthy moment. Now, for the past several weeks, these have been rather funny. This one's not so funny. As a matter of fact, it's really kind of sad, and it happened when I was very young, maybe like 8 years old or whatever. We were again at Clark Air Force Base in the Philippines. And you know, there comes a time in a person's life where, you know, their children, they are sort of totally acting without thought, without conscience, without, you know, any kind of, I don't know what I'm looking for here, any kind of feelings of social ramifications for their actions, but there comes a time where you actually, it's like a light switch kind of flips on and you are suddenly aware of your place in the world. And this day, under some odd circumstances, and I was so overwhelmed by what my sudden perception of the world changed that it totally shook me up. And so let me tell the story and then I'll explain how this all came about. So I was in elementary school there, Virgil I. Grissom Elementary, and probably third grade. And I was sitting in the classroom, and these two ladies, administrator types, had walked in the room and were going down a list and said my name. And I thought they had called my name and were asking me to come with them. So I got up and walked out of the classroom, and I was following, they left, and I was following them down the hallway, and they got to another classroom and went in, and I politely waited outside because I didn't really know, they hadn't said anything to me about what to do or anything. So I followed them, and they went inside, and I stayed outside, and then they came out and looked at me funny, and I didn't register, I didn't, okay. And so they went to the next class, and I again followed them and waited outside, and then they came out and they said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "You called my name, and I thought you wanted me to come with you." And they were like, "No." And at that point I realized I had made a mistake and had embarrassed myself. For the first time I was feeling embarrassed and didn't know how to deal with it. And I took off running, and I ran back to my classroom and was sobbing unconsolably at my desk, to the point where when the teacher came and asked me what the matter was, I couldn't explain myself. I couldn't explain it because I was too embarrassed to. I couldn't explain it because I was really very upset. So they sent me to the office, which was probably smart, got me out of the environment. I wouldn't upset any other kids or anything like that, where I continued to be unable to tell them what had happened because I really didn't know what happened. I just knew that suddenly I had done or had an experience that was changing my life right then and there. And so they called my parents, and I guess I was suspended for the day or sent home. And by the time I got home, I could finally explain what had gone on. And I explained to my dad. And he goes, "Oh, well, I understand it's an honest mistake, but you're still going to be punished for it." Now, punishment for me at that age was to be switched. He took off his me. And I can remember every belt stroke from that incident, because instead of adding insult to injury, it was adding injury to insult. And I felt, although I didn't have the emotional intelligence at that age to explain, I felt that instead of trying to understand and appreciate that I had gone through a life change right then, that I was just being beaten like a dog just because I had to what was expected of me behavior-wise. Even though I had finally come to grips with what had happened and was still processing it. And so cringeworthy moment followed up by not very good understanding of the situation by my parents. Excuse me, I suspect my mother may have been a little more understanding, but I think my father was understanding too, but he didn't feel like he had a choice. I got sent home from school, therefore there were repercussions, period. There was no gray area. But I will tell you, I have never forgiven him for this. He may see this, and I'm sorry. But I don't know that I ever will. So, I've gotten over it, but I will, Alright. There's my video of the week. Sorry to end on a down note. Typically I'm a fun guy, not a truffle. Not a lot of truffle. But yeah. So we'll see you back here for me Monday here soon. Maybe tonight. I got a bottle of wine with my name on it. Alright guys, check you later.